Welcome to Fostering Solutions, a podcast that uplifts people and enterprises making positive impact in communities around the world. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Foster. My guest today is Dr. Michelle Easton. Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Pretty good. It's nice to see you. I know you're all the way in NOLA, New Orleans. How are things down there today?
Things are good. I won't complain at all. We are now a little bit, almost 2 months post Hurricane Ida. So things are somewhat getting better. But we've been blessed in so many ways, and COVID numbers are going down, which is always a good thing.
Always great. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it's all good. It's all good. And we had a cold front, which in New Orleans you cannot compare to Charleston. But
how cold is cold? Like 60 degrees?
It's been in the 60s, and people have been bringing out, the big heavy jackets and everything.
Probably whipping out the fur coats and everything.
Soon, it's coming.
So tell the audience about yourself. Who is Michelle Easton?
Sure. Well, Michelle Easton is an only child who was raised by two wonderful parents, Bonnie and Vidal Easton. I was born and raised in New Orleans. I was trained at one of the best institutions around, Xavier University, as a pharmacist. My parents were educators, and that has been inbred in me from the very beginning. And so I consider myself a pharmacist as well as an educator. I'm an avid sports fan, love sports, try to play tennis as many times a week, 4 or 5 or more times a week if I can. And I love life, love people, and love my family. That's basically
it. That's you in a nutshell. That's what I've seen since I've known you.
That's me.
That's you. So you said you are a trained pharmacist. So describe how your career path, your career trajectory.
Sure. I have always loved science, and I haven't been afraid of math. So math and science have been areas that I've always enjoyed. And being in New Orleans, there's 5 institutions of higher education. Several of them are known for their science programs, medical, pre-med, medicine, pharmacy. And so it was very easy for me to see myself, envision myself in one of those pathways. And during the summer times when I was in high school, elementary school, as well as high school, I was able to do some summer programs on college campuses and get a feel.
Always good, yeah.
Yes, get a feel for health sciences, and I just loved them. And so I chose to be a pharmacist. After graduating with my Bachelor's of Science in Pharmacy, was able to practice here in New Orleans as a community pharmacist. And I also did a little bit of consulting pharmacy. And I precepted students, which means that young pharmacists who are in pharmacy school needs to have experiential training. They need to learn, practice, and get feedback on how to really be a pharmacist. And so I was able to precept students, and I loved it. I love the ability to interact with the students and help them along their way and help them get better in certain areas and praise them when they were doing great. I wanted to do more and more precepting and do more and more things that I felt would impact the profession. And so some of my mentors said, well, Michelle, you need to get your doctorate of pharmacy. That's just it. And I really did not want to hear that at the time because, when I was in college, I was one of the last classes to get the Bachelor's of Science. And all that I heard was I needed a Bachelor's of Science to become a pharmacist. But to do more, at that time, I really needed to get the PharmD, the Doctor of Pharmacy, which is now the entry-level degree, but it wasn't when I was in school. So I went back, got my PharmD, decided to do a residency in psychiatric pharmacy. And I did that in medical
psychiatric pharmacy.
Yes, psychiatric pharmacy. And I was trained in Charleston, South Carolina.
And
so I was there
Okay.
Yeah, I was there for about a year and a half. And then from there, I was able to get a position in academic pharmacy where I was teaching pharmacy. And so I was using a lot of my psychiatric pharmacy. I would teach that part in the curriculum, but I also grew into an administrative responsibility in the School of Pharmacy, actually seeking out positions for our students to go get trained. So I was director of experiential education. And from there, I helped start that School of Pharmacy at Hampton University. I was there for about 6 years and then got recruited to come to University of Charleston in Charleston, West Virginia. I tell people I've lived in both Charlestons, West Virginia as well as South Carolina. And I spent more time because I was a Charlestonian of West Virginia by choice for 14 years. And so I came to West Virginia to help start the School of Pharmacy at University of Charleston as assistant dean. And within 2 years of coming, or 2.5 years of coming, then there was an opportunity for me to become the dean at the School of Pharmacy. So that has been my career trajectory from a professional perspective.
Awesome. And you really made an impact in Charleston, not only on UC's campus, but also in the community. You were active on a number of boards and
Yes.
so on.
Yes.
So is that something you got from your parents, just being that, always wanting to give back?
Absolutely. And it wasn't something that they told me to do. It was something that I saw them do. And didn't necessarily, it wasn't foreign to me, right? So my parents were always engaged. When I was doing activities, they were the parents that would support those activities.
Right.
When I was, going to these summer camps, they were doing things on the college campuses or in the high school. So being educators, they were always, educators are real jewels and gems of the society. I am a little biased about that, but they truly are. In that,
my mom's an educator too. So
you know that they do more, so much more than just being good role models and examples in the classroom. They typically are very much engaged in the community. And so I saw that, and it was very easy for me to, when given the opportunity to serve, to serve, and I love to do it.
Absolutely. So now you're doing something new. You've launched a new consulting company, Custom Made Consulting. What's your vision for this new consultancy?
Yeah, well, the vision is to help people. That's what I feel to be my calling, and to be able to assist people with their leadership skills and development, to be able to help people strategize, do strategy, and provide solutions in that regard. I do a lot of training of persons, individual as well as groups. And I think that it's helpful many times when you have someone outside of your organization, outside of your family, outside of whatever your unit is. They tend to be able to come in and say some things and help you move along, get you unstuck, get you to strive and move forward, typically a little bit more effectively than persons that are in-house. And it's not that the persons that are in-house aren't good. It's just that it's something about human behavior that typically we tend to give a little bit more credibility, be a little bit more patient, listen a little more.
Yep.
Be willing to try when you have someone who may not be an employee, a family member, whatever it may be. You tend to be able to be a little bit more effective. And so when I moved back from Charleston back to New Orleans, I came really, it was a family decision to help take care of my parents. My mom has dementia, she has Alzheimer's, and so I'm a caregiver primary. But the consulting business gives me an opportunity to manage time and my talents to
give you some flexibility.
Gives me the flexibility to be able to contribute. So that's what Custom Made Consulting is all about. The name, whenever you see it, MADE is in capital letters. And that is because if you work with Custom Made Consulting, we want to make a difference every day. I ultimately believe that most people, they do want to be of impact, and they have some meaning in the things that they do, and you want to be able to make a difference. And so making a difference every day is important. And then MADE is also making a difference exponentially. So you can do it every day.
Okay.
Yes, you need to be able to be a force multiplier is what I believe, right? You can help persons individually, but then those persons can go on to help other people. And so you can exponentially make a difference. And so that's what custom made consulting is all about.
Right. You mentioned leadership in there, helping people to develop their leadership skills.
Absolutely.
So when you think of leadership, what skills, attitudes, and behaviors did you have to learn or adopt to achieve the success you have? And hopefully you're imparting those same things to your clients.
Absolutely. I'll just take for me personally, because you did ask the question about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Many people have they have different perspectives about only children, right? So I'm an only child, but most people say, oh, you don't seem like you're an only child. But I say that I take on the only child's ability to self-assess, because they can go within themselves, they can keep themselves company. Those kinds of things are things that only children, many only children do. And I'm an extroverted introvert. I'm more introverted, but I can be extroverted when I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned in a skill that's very important, I think, in leadership, is that it's very much about being a team. And being a team is important, that you understand and know who's on your team and what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. And it's important that you know them for yourself, but you have to know that about your team members as well. And it's okay that people have weaknesses, because we're not perfect.
Right.
But a good team can balance someone's weaknesses with another person's strength. So the ability to be willing to self-assess, but also be willing to assess other persons, and being able to match people up or match the team strengths and dynamics together is a very important part for a perspective and a skill I think that leaders need to have. The other thing that I would say is that leaders need to be able to be effective communicators. Mm-hmm. And to be an effective communicator, my belief is that you have to be a better listener first. Absolutely. You have to be able to listen. And not be listening so that you can respond. You need to be listening so that you can see and understand what they've said and what they haven't said. Mm-hmm. And then your second part of communication is in how you respond. And sometimes a powerful leader doesn't have to say a whole lot. Many times what they do can speak for them, can set the tone, set the mood, set the expectation. And then, but that communication piece is extremely important. And that's what I think I've learned. And I am continuing to learn the importance of being a powerful communicator.
Yeah, because it's amazing. People just would have a perception of you just from how you carry yourself.
Absolutely.
And how you conduct yourself without you even thinking about it.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
They kind of tag
you in.
Right. Positive or negative. I mean,
that's right.
It's amazing.
That's right. And so sometimes people will say, oh, you're just so quiet. Well, maybe I'm just observing.
And you're taking it in. And
I'm taking it in.
Speak when it's, because I've seen you in meetings. Some people just speak a whole lot. Yeah. But I've been in meetings with you where you're very thoughtful. And I think I see that, sometimes I see that in myself. It's like you're observing, absorbing, and you're really thinking before you speak. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that's right. Because you can't take your words back. Right. So for me, I think it's always important that when I speak, I want to know what I'm saying, make it valuable and meaningful and impactful for people, and that it can make a difference. But you're right. Sometimes people just talk and talk and talk. And then when it's important, you don't know when to decipher. Are they just talking to talk, or are they getting ready to say something?
Here they go again. Yeah.
That's right.
So what do you think your leadership style is? If you were to think of your leadership style.
Yeah, I consider my leadership style, and what others have said about me as well, is that I'm more principle-centered leadership, which is one of Stephen Covey's kind of phrases that he's effectively defined as more of a servant leader. And so I think more about others first, and then as a leader, right? So I'm not going to get in the front of the line. The persons who are working with me need to go before I do, and I can go last, right?
Yeah.
And that translates into decisions I make when it comes to helping persons to get developed, right? I need to be developed, but it's more important that they're developed. It's more important that their potential get realized and applied. And so being able to think externally and act externally, I think is extremely important. And that tends to be more of my style. And I tend to be more of a coach of persons. So I listen, and then I say, well, what do you think about this? Or had you thought about that? And I don't try to mandate. There are times when you need to, but I try more to coach, right? Because I think everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs somebody who has kind of either already walked the path or will walk with you on the path, who will push you, encourage you, discipline when necessary, but will guide. And I think that that's extremely important. So my leadership style is more servant leadership. And then I do believe a lot in using the approach of coaching versus an authoritarian, do as I say kind of thing. I think that approach tends to have people be a little bit more vested in the process because they feel like they're getting something out of it. And I also believe that people don't tear down things that they've built. So if someone's been involved in the process in building something up, they have a sense of ownership, and they're not going to tear it down. They're going to want to, see it be successful. So.
And that kind of ties in with what you said about teams,
Yeah.
Really how talking about the importance of being a part of a team and making that a behavior that you adopt. So that right along with that.
Yes.
So you've branched out now into consulting. So how do you think your STEM background, because a lot of leaders, whether they find themselves like as a CEO at the top of a Fortune 500 company, a lot of them have STEM backgrounds. So how do you think your STEM background has prepared you for your consultancy?
Yeah, well, I think in a very good way, STEM is a lot about solving problems. And a logical, ordered approach to it. It's not happenstance. it's very structured, ordered, deductive. All of those things are important, and you learn that in STEM backgrounds. And I think as someone who helps persons with strategy, or someone who helps persons being coached, you can't be willy-nilly about it. You need to understand and know what the goal is, and then you develop a plan and you follow the plan, right? And then you adjust as you need to. As you implement and you see that things are not working, then you use your ordered perspective and say, okay, what did we change? What happened when we changed it? And then let's try this, let's try that, right? And so I think STEM has helped me a lot. And I think it goes hand in hand, I think, with the process. When people want assistance, when they're looking for someone to be helpful to them, they want them to be knowledgeable, but they want to know that they know what they're doing. And many times you may not quite understand why someone is doing it, but you get that there's a process in place.
Exactly.
And STEM, it's all about process.
It's all about process, and we're just tweaking variables, right?
Exactly. That's absolutely right. And you got to know what all your variables are. And sometimes we don't know all our variables, and then you have to manage for that. Right?
Absolutely. You talked about coaching others. Have you received coaching along the way, and how did it impact your career?
Yeah, I have received informal coaching. I didn't have a structured 12-month coaching session with persons. So I did not, I must say, that I did not have that. I would have greatly benefited from that. I did get a glimpse of it in a program that I worked in. They had some small coaching sessions involved in it, but it wasn't long-term. But coaching, while I haven't had the formal, the informal has been extremely helpful. And the biggest part that I find to be helpful about coaching is the accountability piece, right? So the coach can help you be accountable for what you do and what you don't do, right? And so, the coach doesn't do it for you, just like a coach in sports. They don't do it for you. They will show you, or they may give you some other activities to help enhance what it is that you're trying to learn or improve or remove from maybe a bad habit that you have. But ultimately, the pupil has to be willing and receptive, right, to the ability to get the feedback. But coaching is a wonderful force multiplier. It's a wonderful opportunity to accelerate some goals that you may have.
Awesome. So this podcast is about leadership. So based on your experience, what are some keys to effective leadership?
Keys to effective leadership, I believe, is that you need to be authentic. You need to be a person of integrity, because people have to trust you. Leaders, you have a big role. You have a big obligation, a big responsibility, and you're human, so you're not going to do everything right all the time. But if you're an individual of integrity, if you have garnered the trust of the people you work with and who follow you, when you make those missteps, as long as you acknowledge them, I think people, for the most part, 9 times out of 10, understand and are willing to keep going, right? So I think that having integrity, being trustworthy is extremely important. And I also think, as I said before, the ability to communicate your vision or getting consensus, the ability to do that effectively is very important for the leader. And then I think the most important part of being a leader is to be caring and compassionate, right? People, I think John Maxwell says it, people don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? And if I know that someone cares for me and is not going to do me harm, right? If I know that someone cares about me and has my best interest at heart,
right,
then I can effectively lead and I can effectively follow, because the leader has to be a follower too, right? But I think one of the most important things is you have to have care and compassion. And in today's world, we need so much more of that. We need people to be caring, to be empathetic, to have compassion. That's what we need now more than anything, in my opinion.
That is so true. And I think when people see that, they're comfortable being their authentic self at work. When they see that you care, that you don't mind if they have to take care of something with their child at school, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
They can be themselves and really produce beyond what people imagine.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing now, and when I was trained as psychiatric pharmacist, that was almost 30 years ago, or 25 years ago, and we didn't have the best awareness and appreciation for mental health. And I'll try to help people understand that there's a thing called an adjective, and so mental is the adjective, but health. The mental is describing the health, right? So physical health, we do a lot about our physical health. That's one type of health, but the mental health is important. So as a leader, you need to understand that well-being, people can't give their best to you if they're stressed, if they have things going on at home, if they have they need a mental health day. There's nothing, I support that, right? Because there's some times where, yes, you can have me in this office, but I'm not there.
Right.
I'm mentally checked out, right? And so a leader who can be compassionate enough to understand that person's mental health needs to be as important as their physical health.
Absolutely.
And the role that I can play as a leader to be compassionate about that and say, or maybe you need to get some additional assistance. Right. And showing the care. And I think that's extremely important. And we're seeing
taking your time off, because some people think it's great. Oh, I don't want to take your time off.
Take your time off. Yes. That's one thing that I learned that was important. I would say I did have to learn that probably the harder way. There was an easier way for me to learn the importance of the balance that you need to have.
As we wind down the interview, As you reflect in your career, what do you know now that you wish you knew earlier on when you started in pharmacy?
Yes. I think I'll kind of go back to the balance piece. I had a mentor who told me, Michelle, she said to me, "No is a complete sentence." And I struggled. I struggled mightily with that, because what we find is that when you're good at something, or you're successful, or you've achieved, then people seek you to do more and more things, right? So the reward for doing good work is that you get more
work.
right?
Yeah.
Which is great. However, you need to be able to balance that. And so the ability to be able to say no and not have to qualify it. And you have to find ways to say that you feel comfortable with. But I had to learn that I can't do everything. I can't spread myself so thin that I'm not effective and good. Sometimes you have to be able to say no. And sometimes you can help people find other options or alternatives. Right. I may not be able to help you, however, so-and-so may. Or have you thought about X, Y, and Z? And I guess there goes my problem solving, kicking in. But the thing, the emphasis I'm trying to say is the balance and the ability to say no. Sometimes it's hard. Some people have difficulty with it. And I used to be one of those persons. I don't have that difficulty much now. I've learned. But that's something that I wish I knew before that I know now.
So as you look to the future with everything, you've just launched your consultancy, your caregiver, and as you look to the future, what gives you hope through it all? Living in New Orleans, and the uncertainties of hurricane season, and on and on. What gives you hope?
I'm one of these people, I love quotes, because sometimes quotes give me energy, they give me grounding. And there's this one quote, and it just so happens to be Colin Powell's quote, but it's one that I would always embody, that talked about perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. I'm a Christian, so my value system is not tied solely to this earth. Right. So my faith and my value shares with me that better is ahead. And so I commonly often will say, my best, our best is yet to come, because I have that sense of hope. I know that things may look bad, but sometimes things look bad before they get better. Right. And so
always darkest before the dawn. Right.
There you go. There you go. That's right. So I have this perpetual optimism, a hope for good things. I believe that things will get better. But I'll tell you, having been in higher education for 20 years, a little bit more than that, it's the young people that also give me hope, because a lot of them, especially today's youth, they look at us like we're crazy. They're like, why are we doing this? And why is it like they challenge, they question, and they challenge. And that's what we need if we're going to change and improve and get better. You have to be challenged, because otherwise it's the status quo, right? We're fine.
Same old,
yeah, same old, same old. And so I have a lot of optimism and hope because of the youth. And my father used to always tell me, Michelle, any major change that happens, many times the youth are involved in it. And so he would always go to the civil rights, and that, it was the sit-ins, and it was on the college campuses, that those young people were not going to accept how things were going. And so you see that now, right? So you see,
absolutely.
And so that gives me a lot of hope, but it's also, of course, and primarily it is my faith.
Your faith, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciated this time. The time just kind of zoomed right by.
It did.
Yeah. Any parting words?
I'm just grateful. I just am grateful for you, Michelle, for the opportunity. I certainly miss Charleston tremendously.
Yeah, we miss you too.
Those were 14 wonderful years that I was there, and so the opportunity to be connected in this way, right, is wonderful, and I appreciate you and you and others that have done just tremendous work in Charleston and Greater Charleston and in the state, and we need that, right? We need that in every state. In every country,
everyone doing their part. Absolutely.
Right. We need everybody doing their part. And so I guess the parting words that I would give to you and to those persons listening is we can all make a difference and contribute in whatever way, talent, gift we've been gifted with. And that I hope that people will stay encouraged, keep the faith, and not grow weary in well-doing. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Take care.